Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Familia Imbachi Wash Process Colombia from Sweet Bloom Coffee. And there's the bag right there. And Sweet Bloom based out of Lakewood, Colorado. And again, no need to discuss them too much in depth, as they're probably the coffee roaster we review the most on this channel, as they are one of our favorites in the entire world. So let's just start discussing the recipe. This one was brewed at a 16.67 to 1 water to coffee ratio at 203 degrees Fahrenheit through the Chemex. And again, Sweet Bloom on their website does like a lower temperature, so they suggest 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is a light, medium American for the roast profile. And with that out of the way, let's start discussing this coffee. Day 7, the first impression we had of this coffee was okay. Pretty classic Sweet Bloom sweetness to the coffee, some pretty distinct citrus fruits as well. And it did taper off just ever so slightly roasty. And that can happen from time to time with Sweet Bloom coffees, and it's usually an indicator that it's a little early to be drinking their coffees. So this one probably needed a couple days. And of course we came back on day 8 and it was already a much better cup of coffee. In typical Sweet Bloom fashion, it had that Sweet Bloom sweetness, and it was a very traditional with a slight bit of sugary sweetness. Day 9 coffee continued to improve. Sweetness from the sugar was by far the most dominant thing, but the citrus and the florals were kind of starting to shine through a little bit more. Not as delicate as expected, but pretty flavorful. And that's probably going to be the theme of this cup of coffee, is that based off the flavor notes, we were expecting a more delicate cup of coffee, but this was by no means a delicate cup. It was a much more bold and robust cup of coffee. So that definitely didn't go in line with what we were expecting when we started drinking this coffee. Day 10, pretty consistent, sugar forward, a bit of citrus, nothing too notable. Day 12, sugar sweetness continuing to dominate the cup, and the sugar sweetness will definitely be dominating this cup throughout. Citrus is coming through nicely, florals again coming through nicely. Some of the washed South American coffee characteristics really coming through on this day. A little bit of nuttiness, a little bit of smokiness, a little bit of caramel. And we're back day 13, lovely and heavy bit of sweetness still, caramel coming through as well. More caramel this day than had been in the past. And again, still a more bold cup of coffee than we had kind of expected. Day 14, coffee continues to improve. Florals getting better. Citrus, still pretty citric, still pretty bold, but overall pretty solid cup of coffee on that day. And our final impression, day 15, pretty much what you'd expect from a washed Colombian. Nuttiness, caramel, very much in line with those characteristics. It also had a nice bit of zinginess to it, and as mentioned already at this point, the sugar sweetness was by far the most dominant thing in this cup of coffee. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we were getting. And this tasting wheel does not look that much like a traditional Sweet Bloom tasting wheel, as again, for the second time in a row, the sweetness is only at a level 3 for this coffee, because most of their coffees are a lot sweeter than this one. This one's just a little bit more on the tame for the sweetness side, which is funny because the sugar is what's really dominating this cup. But the other things definitely worth noting are the body at level 4, which is really surprising anytime we have body at level 4 for a coffee, given that we like brewing it through the Chemex. So this one had a very heavy body for a coffee brew through the Chemex. Smokiness, caramel, chocolate, all at a level 3. Other things at a level 3 had a pretty lasting finish, so the finish was up there. Acidity level 3, florals pretty high, citrus fruits, I mean they're all level 3, but with the exception of the body, nothing went above the level 3. Heavy bit of saltiness to it. Yeah, I think this tasting will just kind of shows that this coffee was a little bit more rounded than we usually get, even from a Sweet Bloom coffee. Sweet Bloom, one of the reasons we like them so much is that you're never going to get a really disappointing cup of coffee. You might get something that's a little bit more middle ground to middle to high ground, but you're never going to get something that's thoroughly disappointing. So that's what this tasting wheel kind of looks like to me anyway. Alright, thoughts and impressions of this coffee. We've been harping on this throughout the video. We were expecting and hoping for a more delicate cup, so the fact that we got a more bold, robust cup was a little disappointing to us. We're not going to sugarcoat that. But that being said, this is what we explained to one of our subscribers. A place like Onyx, you're going to have a cup of coffee that's tremendous sometimes, and you're going to have a cup of coffee that you don't necessarily enjoy sometimes as well. And for the most part, you don't have as much of a middle ground. Sweet Bloom as a whole, you're going to have a lot of very consistent coffees. So you're never going to have the thoroughly disappointing coffees, and you're probably going to have maybe slightly fewer of the really blow you away cups of coffee. And this one falls very much in line with that. Wasn't our favorite sweet bloom coffee this year either, much like the Juan Peña. But even then, for being pretty much the traditional coffee that we have in the shelf, it was pretty nice to go along with some more wild. And we were drinking this simultaneously with the cheese and crackers coffee. So as you can see, having something that deviates from that super wild and crazy coffee was pretty nice. And it's the type of person we would suggest this coffee to. Quite a few people took us up on this offer before we even tried this coffee, given how good this coffee sounded. And those people we would suggest this coffee to still is people that do enjoy your very traditional Colombia. I think this is a very good traditional Colombia. If you're looking for a little bit more, I guess, just different things, the sugar sweetness specifically, the citrus that comes in it, but at the same time, it's very much in line with traditional Colombias as well. A little bit more difficult of a review than normal for Sweet Bloom, given both how much familiarity we have with their coffee as well as what we were expecting from this coffee. So we're just going to leave it at that, though. If you've by chance tried the Familia Imbachi, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions of this one as well. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Familia Imbachi Wash Process Colombia from Sweet Bloom Coffee. Thank you for watching.